The following is a presentation of 912 Sports. Welcome to On Air with 912 Sports, your number one source for high school sports. With Sean Smoke, Kevin Price, and Robbie Ross. On Air with 912 Sports is brought to you by Coastal Pines Technical College. Go Coastal. Prime South Bank. Find your prime. Robbie Robertson Ford, because Fords are cheaper in the swamp. Gibson Animal Clinic, practical solutions with limited fees. Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery, the region's best orthopedic care. And Kim Smoke, licensed realtor with Crossway Realty.
High schoolers, did you know that you can get a head start on your college career and save money at the same time through dual enrollment at Coastal Pines Technical College? Dual enrollment is open to high school juniors and seniors, tuition free. Talk to your high school counselor or visit coastalpines.edu for more information. Coastal Pines Technical College, an equal opportunity institution. Go Coastal.
It makes sense Prime South Bank would have a great mobile app. Nobody is as mobile as our customers. For a century, they've chased dreams, followed their hearts, took the road less taken, made a new path, taken leaps of faith. At Prime South, offering the latest digital banking, secure pay apps, and new online lending is part of a mobile tradition that goes way back. Life is mobile. So is Prime South. Find your Prime. Member FDIC.
Robbie Ross here for the Ross Report on 912 Sports. Another busy week of high school football, exciting games, and the region races are really shaping up for these last couple of weeks of games to see who moves on to the state playoffs. First, our game of the week for 912 Sports. Vidalia jumped out on Brantley County with the opening kickoff return for a touchdown and never looked back, defeating the Herons 46-0. It was Appling County over Windsor Forest 38-0. Ware County over Bradwell, 48-0. Ware County solidifying their top spot in the 5A poll. It was Colquitt defeating Camden County 49-21. Charlton over Atkinson County 48-14. Clinch County defeated Turner County 42-18. Coffee County rolled over Statesboro 35-3. Effingham County staying in that region race with Brunswick in the 6A region 35-22 over Evans. Grovetown falls at Glenn 46-14. Big night for the Red Terrors as they get back on the winning track 2 weeks in a row now after they beat South Effingham last week. Fitzgerald over Jeff Davis 48-0. It was MCA McIntosh County Academy over Montgomery County 21-0. Wayne County, it took overtime, but they got it done over New Hampstead 31-24. They have a big one this Friday night against Benedictine that will really shake things out in that region. It was Pierce County over Toombs 31-28, Valdosta over Richmond Hill 20-0, and South Effingham over Lakeside of Evans 26-13. That's the Ross Reports for this week on 912 Sports.
Play it loud and rev it up. Robbie Robertson's got trucks built for tough.
Make your way to Robbie Robertson Ford in Waycross, where the deals are bigger than ever. Looking for a stylish midsize car, a spacious SUV, or a truck that performs at work and play? Robbie Robertson wants your vehicle and is paying top dollar. Now is the time to buy. Fords are cheaper in the swamp.
At Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery, you don't have to be an athlete to get the region's best orthopedic care. Our board-certified orthopedic surgeons and physicians treat injuries and conditions that affect just about any joint or bone in your body. Plus, we're backed by the support of Southeast Georgia Health System. From fracture repair to joint replacement, Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery will get you moving again. Call 1-855-ASK-SGHS. That's 1-855-275-7447 or visit sghs.org/summit.
Hello everybody, Kevin Price for On Air with 912 Sports. This past Friday night I was out at Glenn County Stadium for Glenn Academy's homecoming game against Grovetown, and it was a great night for Tarrytown as the Red Terrors rolled to a 46-13 victory over the Warriors out of the Augusta area. With the win, Glenn evens its record at 500, 4-4 on the season, and also 2-2 in Region 2 6A play, with 2 more region games to go and an off week scheduled in between. But this was a great night for the Red Terrors all the way around. No question, their most complete game of the season when you talk about what they did on offense, defense, and special teams. All 3 phases of the game contributed to this Glenn victory with some big plays, and it started right on the opening kick with Glenn's special teams having another big night, getting it started with a 99-yard kickoff return by sophomore running back Greg Peacock to open that game with a bang for the Red Terrors. Now, he was not done, far from it. In fact, also in the first half, he returned another kick, 96 yards for a touchdown. So 2 90-plus yard kick returns for touchdowns by the sophomore Greg Peacock. And again, like I said, more plays from him as well. Also caught a touchdown pass out of the backfield in the first half for Glenn Academy, a 21-yarder on a wheel route from senior quarterback Tyler Devlin. So that was his, gave him 3 touchdowns on the night. Peacock ended up with 97 yards rushing on 22 carries. So a big night for Glenn Academy's sophomore running back. And speaking of Glenn's special teams, let's stay right there. Another big special teams play for them in the first half. For the second week in a row, Glenn blocks a punt, and for the second week in a row, it was the same guy doing it. Daniel Smiley got his hands on a punt there for the Warriors early in the first half. That set up a Glenn touchdown. Last week they scored directly off the block punt. This time it sets up a touchdown. The touchdown was a 16-yard pass, I should say, from Tyler Devlin to Hank Noonan. There in the first half. That was part of a pretty good night throwing the football for Tyler Devlin, Glenn's senior quarterback, although he did it sparingly. But he threw 6 of 10, or completed 6 of 10 passes for just over 100 yards, but four of those passes went for touchdowns. I've already mentioned the one to Peacock and also the one to Noonan, but he threw 2 as well to David Prince, his junior receiver for Glenn Academy, 1 of 27 yards, 1 of 28 yards. And the second one is the one that was Glenn's final points of the night, made a nice over-the-shoulder catch in the end zone to complete the scoring for Glenn Academy. So Prince with 2 touchdown catches from Devlin, who had the 4 touchdown passes. Now, also, Glenn Academy's defense contributed big in this game. They intercepted 2 passes that directly led to points for Glenn Academy. Jaden Ellis had one of those interceptions for Glenn Academy. Both interceptions, by the way, on Effingham's side of the field. Ellis returned his pick to the 2-yard line. That set up a 2-yard touchdown run by Tyler Devlin, Glenn's quarterback. And then also in the first half, Ryan Young intercepted a pass, and that led to that first touchdown that Devlin threw to Prince. So again, offense, defense, special teams gets it done for Glenn Academy. The defense, another key component in this ball game going in, was if they could contain Grovetown's starting quarterback Amari Clark. They had to keep him hemmed up, keep him in the pocket, keep hats around him because he is a dangerous dual threat for Grovetown. And for the most part, Glenn did that. He did end up with just under 90 yards rushing on, I think, 21 carries. Did throw for 150-plus yards. But again, Glenn kept him from dominating that ball game, taking over that ball game with his legs and his arm. And that was a key component for Glenn to keep him from having a big night. And certainly that played a factor as well in Glenn being able to take control of this game and really pull away from Grovetown early and dominate on the scoreboard at the end of the night. So a big win for Glenn. They are squarely in the playoff race, probably still for a 3 or 4 seed. Another big game coming up this Friday night that has playoff implications for the Red Terrors. They'll host Evans. It will be the final home game of the regular season for Glenn Academy. And then after that game, they'll take a week off and then come back and finish up the season on the road against Lakeside Evans, that game being in the Augusta area. So a big finish coming up for the Red Terrors. I'll be back out at Glenn County Stadium tomorrow night for that game against Evans, and I'll have a report on that ball game right here next week on Air with 912 Sports. See you later, everybody. I'm Kevin Price.
Gibson Animal Clinic is ready to help with your animals. From cats to dogs to horses, we treat them all. Call on us for grooming, bathing, boarding, and more serious things like surgery, dentistry, spay, neuter, immunizations, heartworm prevention, flea control, complete lab testing, radiology, preventive health care. Call us at 285-7678. Open Saturdays for your convenience. Gibson Animal Clinic. Practical solutions with reasonable fees. Russell J. Gibson, DVM.
Gibson Animal Clinic, 108 Riverside Drive, Waycross.
Hablamos español en nuestra clínica.
Welcome, sports fans, and thanks for watching On Air with 912 Sports. I'm Sean Spoke, publisher of 912 Sports, joined as always by head writer and podcast host Kevin Price. Kevin, how you doing today?
Good, Sean. Good to be back with you talking high school football again. A lot of big region games on tap this weekend for sure.
Yeah, Kevin, it's hard to believe, man. There's only 3 or 4 games left in the regular season here. We're on the back half of the season. It seems like just yesterday we were talking about scrimmage games, but lo and behold, here we are. And it's starting to get good because we're starting to, see some teams position themselves for playoffs. And our 912 Sports Game of the Week is one of those games, Kevin. This is Long County at Liberty, Long versus Liberty. Long County basically, had last week off. Liberty County had last week off. Liberty comes into this game 4-3, 2-2 in the region. Long comes in at 5-2, 3-1 in the region. But these guys are, next door neighbors. This is definitely a water cooler type game. Long's on the rise. We're already got 5 wins on the season. If they win another one, Kevin, they'll have their largest win total in history. So a lot riding on this game Friday night.
Yeah, certainly that 6th win for Long, possibly a big subplot to this game, but obviously this game with huge region implications for both teams. And, Sean, when you look at this ball game, I know last year we talked a lot about Long's offense and the way they had gotten that offense going under Coach Feaster. But, when you look at this year's team, maybe some people are overlooking their defense a little bit. I mean, I think they're giving up, right under 17 points a game. And, I mentioned, earlier this year seeing Liberty County at a 7-on-7 back at Brunswick, and I thought they might have some offensive firepower, and they've scored over 30 points several times this season. So when I look at this ball game, I think the marquee matchup is the Long defense against this Liberty offense. And when you look at this game, Sean, yes, obviously it's huge because, like you said, Liberty sitting there at 2-2, Long at 3-1 in the region. Long maybe has a little bit tougher schedule left, because they play Calvary Day and also Johnson, whereas Liberty plays Beach and Savannah Christian. Savannah Christian and Calvary Day look like they should finish 1-2, but, Long and Liberty certainly right there in the mix for those 3rd and 4th spots, if nothing else. So this game certainly reigns, large in the overall picture of things, and both teams can certainly boost their playoff chances by winning this one for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, that was going to go a long way to see who is going to make the playoffs and who might be sitting at home, in that region. So, like I said, I got my fingers crossed there for Coach Feaster to get at least the 6 wins, even if it doesn't happen this week. Maybe it'll happen later in the season, but definitely going to be a good one there Friday night between Long and Liberty. But moving right along, Kevin, another big region contest. Vidalia at Applin. Applin's sitting there. They're the big dog in that region, that AA region. But Vidalia inexplicably, Kevin lost one to Tatnall here a couple weeks ago. Not real sure what went on that night, but that Vidalia was unbeaten coming into that game. Tatnall was able to get them, so they've got that one loss in the region. But listen, Vidalia put a beat down on Brantley County this past Friday night. I was really shocked by that score. I thought Brantley had a shot in that game, but Kevin, I believe the score was like 46-6 or something like that. I mean, a really, really just a decisive win there for Vidalia. So Vidalia comes into Appleton, guns a-blazing. So it could be a tough matchup for Appleton County.
Yeah, and Appling, of course, coming off the big 38-0 win over Windsor Forest. That's their first shutout of the season. They are 5-1, 3-0, and the big win certainly for them was just a few weeks back over Pierce County. And to make that win count, they need to finish out, Sean, undefeated, get the number 1 seed in the region to make that win mean what it should mean. Now, when you look at Vidalia, the game kind of hanging over their head is still that Tatnall game. And we'll see exactly how large it looms when it's all said and done. But that was that 13-7 loss midweek, that week of the storm. They came back with a vengeance last week, as you mentioned, 46-6 over Brantley. I think it's safe to say they took their frustrations out on the Herons. But when you look at this finish, boy, they have an amazing final 3 ball games: Appling, Pierce, and Toombs. And because of that loss to Tatnall, they probably got to win one of these final 3 games, depending on how everything else shakes out. You would just look at the schedule and say, well, the most likely one is Toombs, but of course that's a rivalry game as well. So that is what it is. And here they are with a chance to, certainly help themselves in a big time way this week if they were to beat Appling. So a key final 3 games starting right here with this game for Vidalia. And again, for Appling to make that Pierce County game count, you got to finish out with all wins.
Yep, definitely got to run the table, so to speak. But, hey, we'll move right along. We've got Bacon going to travel over to Pelham. Bacon coming off a bye week. Bradwell's going to travel to Statesboro. Kevin, these 2 teams lost in a big way. They did play the best 2 teams in the region last week, but you're talking about 3-point score between the 2 football teams there this past Friday night. So both of these teams got to get their offenses rolling. Tatnall at Brantley. This is going to be another region, game there in that AA region. Very, very important. We'll see if Tatnall can keep things rolling, or if Brantley can get back on the, on the winning side. Then you got Brunswick's going to travel down to South Effingham. South Effingham coming off a big region win this past Friday night. I believe they beat Lakeside Evans, which a lot of people didn't think would happen. So South got them a region win. See if they can keep it going. But, oh, by the way, you got to play the number 1 team there, that 6A region. And that brings us, Kevin, to Valdosta and Camden. Valdosta played Richmond Hill this past Friday night. Camden had to go over to Colquitt. Kept it kind of close there for a little while, but Colquitt, being the number 2 team in 7A, stretched it out there. And of course, Valdosta was able to get that 20-0 win over Richmond Hill. But listen, that's a long haul from Valdosta to St. Mary's, Georgia, or to Kingsland, Georgia, to where this game's going to take place Friday night. So we'll see if Camden can sneak in there and snatch one away from Valdosta.
Well, certainly you would like to think that being at home, being in the friendly confines of Chris Gilman Stadium will help the Wildcats, will be worth something. And this is only Valdosta's second road trip out of town. They went to Warner Robins early in the season, and then, went across town to play Lowndes. That was a road game, if you will, but that's kind of like Glenn playing Brunswick. You just get on the school bus and drive a few miles and you're there. But when you look at this Valdosta team, Sean, it all obviously starts with their defense. I mean, they posted that shutout against Richmond Hill last week. That game was scoreless at halftime, and Valdosta outscored them 20-0. But when talking to Coach Heron, because it really Richmond Hill didn't seem to move a lick, it felt like Valdosta was controlling that ball game, and they actually had over 400 yards of offense, just couldn't punch it in the end zone in the first half. And I asked Coach Heron about the Valdosta defense and what scheme they might line up in, and he kind of said they line up in all kinds of things, but they basically just say sick them, and that's basically where it all stops and starts, or starts and stops. And with Valdosta, I mean, you got to be able to move the ball. You got to take advantage of whatever opportunities they give you, and they're not bad on offense either, Sean. They're pretty balanced offensively. I think last week over 200 yards passing. Also over 200 yards running. They played that game last week without their top 2 running backs and turned to another little kid who's, about 5'6", and maybe 150 or 60 pounds, but he ran for about 170 yards. So this Valdosta team, tough once again. Coach Felton doing a good job after the mess he inherited from Rush Probst and the probation they had last year. But obviously, Camden's going to have to deal with that salty defense and find a way to put some points on the board, and then rely on their own defense, which got it moved up and down the field on them last week by a really good Colquitt County offense. And a lot of people feel like 7A's coming down to Colquitt and Beaufort. And I tell you what, though, if Valdosta were to win this one, next week in Valdosta, I believe it's Colquitt against Valdosta, and you're talking about a dynamic matchup with Valdosta's offense or Valdosta's defense against that Colquitt offense. But let's hope Camden County can kind of upset the apple cart and get a big win here this Friday night.
Yeah, but you're right, Kevin. If Valdosta does win that game next week is going to be huge there at Bazemore Hyder Stadium for sure. So, but anyway, we'll move right along. We've got Charlton this week's going to be open as they get ready to make their stretch run. Atco is going to travel over to Clinch, and Coffee is going to be at Jenkins. So Coffee got to go into Savannah and take on a pretty salty Jenkins team. So we'll see what happens there. But hey, let's take a break. We'll pay a few bills and come right back here with some more previews to the games on 10/21. You're watching On Air with 912 Sports.
It makes sense Prime South Bank would have a great mobile app. Nobody is as mobile as our customers. For a century, they've chased dreams, followed their hearts, took the road less taken, made a new path, taken leaps of faith. At Prime South, offering the latest digital banking, secure pay apps, and new online lending is part of a mobile tradition that goes way back. Life is mobile. So is Prime South. Find your Prime. Member FDIC.
Play it loud and rev it up. Robbie Robertson's got trucks built for tough.
Make your way to Robbie Robertson Ford in Waycross, where the deals are bigger than ever. Looking for a stylish midsize car, a spacious SUV, or a truck that performs at work and play? Robbie Robertson wants your vehicle and is paying top dollar. Now is the time to buy. Fords are cheaper in the swamp.
High schoolers, did you know that you can get a head start on your college career and save money at the same time through dual enrollment at Coastal Pines Technical College? Dual enrollment is open to high school juniors and seniors, tuition free. Talk to your high school counselor or visit coastalpines.edu for more information. Coastal Pines Technical College, an equal opportunity institution. Go Coastal.
Welcome back, sports fans, and thanks for watching On Air with 912 Sports. I'm Sean Smoke, joined by Kevin Price, and we're going to get into the second half of the previews to 10/21 games here in the 912. We'll start off with Effingham County. Effingham coming off a big win this past Friday night, but they're going to be open. They're enjoying a bye week. Then we've got Frederica is going to travel over to Statesboro to take on Bullock Academy. And then a game, Kevin, is really going to come down to some big implications here for playoff seeding, and that's Evans at Glenn. This game is going to be there in the friendly confines between the bricks at Glenn County Stadium. Evans coming off a loss to Effingham, Glenn coming off a big win over Grovetown. But this game, Kevin, is really, really important to Glenn as far as where they may seed going into the playoffs.
Yeah, for sure. In the loss column, Glenn sitting in the fourth hole right now with 2 losses. Lakeside, Evans sitting in the third hole with 1 loss. But in the win column, Glenn tied for third with the 2 wins. So, played one more region game than Lakeside. But, obviously a big game for both teams, a pivotal game when you look at how this thing may shake out. With head-to-head matchups and whatnot. Glenn with 2 games to go. This one against Evans, the off week next week. Then they'll finish on the road up in Augusta against Lakeside Evans. But last week, Sean, Glenn played without question his most complete game of the season. Offense, defense, and special teams. Special teams got it going for them. Greg Peacock, a 99-yard kickoff return to start the ball game, but he was not done. Far from it. Also returned a 96-yard kick for returned a kick 96 yards for a touchdown, had 97 yards rushing, caught a touchdown pass. Tyler Devlin threw the ball sparingly, but threw, I think, 4 touchdown passes to David Prince. The defense came up with a couple of turnovers, 2 interceptions that they turned into points as well. So in all 3 phases of the game, Glenn had some big plays. And a big key in the ball game that we talked about last week was, keeping the Grovetown quarterback, Amari Clark, from taking over the ball game. He still got his yards, right at 90 yards rushing. I think he had over 150 yards passing. He's a good athlete, there's no question. But Glenn kept him hemmed up, kept him from, getting outside, dominating that game with his legs, and, kept some pressure on him. And like I said, intercepted those 2 passes. So did a good job of keeping him contained. And, this Glenn team may be starting to, make some strides at the right time. The schedule's lightened up a little bit. Certainly they played their first 2 region games against Brunswick and Effingham, who look like, they're going to finish 1-2 in some order in the region. So, Glenn's taking advantage of the lighter schedule, and some of their young kids are starting to gain confidence and learn what they're supposed to be doing. So hopefully that momentum from last week will carry over into these final 2 ball games, and Glenn can make another playoff appearance. It would be the 9th in a row, I think, under Coach Rocky Hidalgo, and I think they're 14th in a row overall. So that is important in terms of the overall program.
Right, Kevin. And that last game of the season between Lakeside Evans and Glenn could loom large for the Red Terras. But we'll move right along. We've got Worth going to travel over to Jeff Davis. Jeff Davis still winless on the season, Kevin. Hard to believe that that's the case, but it is, and it's not going to get any easier Friday night with Worth County coming into the Pinelands. ECI is going to travel over to MCA. Big important game there for the Buccaneers. So we'll see if they can get it done. New Hampstead is going to travel up to Islands. New Hampstead with a chance to get back in the winning column after losing that tough game to Wayne County this past Friday night in overtime. That brings us to Windsor Forest and Pierce County. Kevin, it's hard to believe that this is actually a rematch from last year's first round playoff game, as Windsor Forest came in as a 4 seed and Pierce was a 1 seed, going into the AAA playoffs. And both of these teams moving down. Now they're in the same region. Windsor Forest struggling a little bit this year, lost their quarterback, I think, early in the season. And it's kind of, made them put together a makeshift offense. Appleton was able to have their way with them last Friday night. Not going to get any easier for the Knights this Friday night as they got to go to Bearville and take on Pierce County.
Yeah, and Pierce, if you look at that Appling score, they took care of Windsor Forest last week. I think it was 38-0 that we mentioned earlier. So if you're into comparative scores, you would think that Pierce would win by, at least somewhere around that same neighborhood. This is kind of one of those games where hopefully Pierce can get up, get rolling, maybe get some younger kids some playing time as well. Other kids have been on the practice field too, get them some good experience, maybe look for some depth that you might need. If you're going to work on some things, again, go ahead and get up in the ball game and maybe work on some things that, you're going to need later on down the line. So certainly Pierce needs to take care of business, but this should be one game they should win going away.
Yeah, and they can't play tight like they did last week. Only getting out of there with a 3-point win over Toombs County when Toombs came calling. But listen, that Toombs County team, we know that they're really, really good. The record doesn't exactly show it, but these guys can play with anybody. But moving right along, Kevin, that's going to bring us to Richmond Hill. They've got a bye week. Toombs County's got a bye week after losing that close one to Pierce there Friday night. Greenbrier is going to travel to Ware number 1 team in 5A. Greenbrier winless on the season. Not a lot to talk about there. Like you said, this may be a game for Coach Strickland to get some young guys in, work on some things for down the road as they get ready for that showdown with Coffee, the last game of the season. And then that brings us to our last game on the docket, Wayne at Benedictine. Wayne sitting there undefeated in the region, Benedictine undefeated in the region. Benedictine has played Burke and beaten Burke. Wayne got their Burke game pushed down to November, but this will be a true test for Wayne to have to go on the road to play over there in Savannah against a good top 5 4A team in the Benedictine Cadets.
Yeah, no question. Benedictine, one of the, challengers for the state championship. Wayne certainly has played well since losing their young freshman quarterback and, relying on their defense and the running game more. Big win for them last week against New Hampstead. That's going to loom large, obviously, in terms of how the region's going to shape up. And we talked about it, Sean, both, New Hampstead, Burke, Wayne, all of them need to take their shot at Benedictine, give it their best go. But how they played against each other, New Hampstead, Wayne, and Burke, could very well decide the number 2 seed if none of these teams were able to beat Benedictine. So here's a golden opportunity for Wayne to go out, Don't leave anything behind. Give it your best effort, and however it shakes out, move on. And we'll see if Wayne can hold their own against Benedictine again. It's going to really come down to, I think, the Wayne defense being able to slow down Benedictine and give their offense a chance to possibly win the ball game for them late in the ball game.
Yeah, just got to keep it close there in the fourth quarter and take a shot. But it's a tough task because, like I said, Benedictine, top 5 team there in 4A, and defending state champs and possibly could be right back in that game, at the end of the year. So, really talented team over there in Savannah. But Kevin, that's going to wrap it up for all the games in the 912 here for this 10-21 preview. But we'll be right back here with more On Air with 912 Sports after these messages.
Gibson Animal Clinic is ready to help with your animals. From cats to dogs to horses, we treat them all. Calling us for grooming, bathing, boarding, and more serious things like surgery, dentistry, spay, neuter, immunizations, heartworm prevention, flea control, complete lab testing, radiology, preventive health care. Call us at 285-7678. Open Saturdays for your convenience. Gibson Animal Clinic. Practical solutions with reasonable fees. Russell J. Gibson, DVM.
Gibson Animal Clinic, 108 Riverside Drive, Waycross.
Hablamos español en nuestra clínica.
At Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery, you don't have to be an athlete to get the region's best orthopedic care. Our board-certified orthopedic surgeons and physicians treat injuries and conditions that affect just about any joint or bone in your body. Plus, we're backed by the support of Southeast Georgia Health System. From fracture repair to joint replacement, Summit Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Surgery will get you moving again. Call 1-855-ASK-SGHS. That's 1-855-275-7447 or visit sghs.org/summit.
This has been a presentation of 912 Sports.